You are listening to an MLGA Network podcast.
All right, you're listening to Make Liberty Great Again.
Nope. All right, I will do my introductory voice, and we'll get this started, Mike. You know we love you, right?
This is really lame.
Welcome to Make Liberty Great Again, the best damn Liberty podcast that you've never heard of. I'll be your guide as we peer into the ridiculous reality that is our society and our government. Let's get to it. Welcome to Make Liberty Great Again. I'm your host, Cam Harless, and with me today is Ryan from Techno Agrist, and we're joined by the host of Godarchy, Thoughts from Maharrey Head, the Friday Gold Wrap podcast. He works for the 10th Amendment Center. He edits everything that Schiff ever writes. He's the author of the Constitution Owner's Manual, the real Constitution politicians don't want you to know about, and a lizard bitch. Welcome to the show, Mike Maharrey.
What the hell's a lizard bitch? All right, I have a couple of corrections. I don't edit anything that Peter Schiff writes.
What? I thought you just write things for him.
I write all of the content for the Schiff Gold website. But funny story, I've worked for Schiff Gold now for like 3 or 4 years. I've never met Peter Schiff. I've never even actually talked to Peter Schiff. I've exchanged a few emails with him, but he's not really that involved with the gold business.
Well, the reason I said lizard bitch was because at some point on Facebook in the last week, we were somehow we got into a conversation and lizard people were mentioned, and I believe someone called Hillary Clinton a lizard bitch.
Ah, yes.
And then
I understand the reference.
And then when last time you were supposed to come on the show, you got caught up chasing a lizard in your house. So I
did.
I connected those two.
So that's a funny story. And just for the audience, it's like almost my bedtime, so I will not be responsible for whatever ramblings that I may engage in. But yeah, my
You're
mother-in-law,
old. We forgive you.
That's true. That's very true. My mother-in-law is horrified of the lizards. Now it's funny because she's starting to warm to the lizards.
She lives in Florida, and yet she's afraid of or doesn't like lizards.
Well, she's only been here.
They're everywhere.
She's only been here since December.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So, and she's from West Virginia. They don't have lizards in West Virginia.
Right.
I know everybody cares. All of the listeners have now tuned out. So you're welcome for me ruining your show forever.
Mike is old and he's tired, so we're just gonna, they'll forgive you. Don't worry.
It's not ruined forever, just till you're gone.
Oh, okay.
Cam and I are still here. Yeah, we'll make it interesting. Do our best.
Well, I just wanted to have you on for a couple of reasons. One, because I like you as a human being.
Well, I like you guys too. You're good people.
And secondly, the last time I talked to you was like a year ago, I think, on the show. And we were talking about your lawsuit against the city over surveillance cameras.
Yeah.
And I know that unfortunately that came to an end. But I'm just curious, since you moved to Florida, what kind of trouble are you starting now?
Well, I haven't really started any. Okay, so I'll give everybody, I'm going to give an exclusive scoop.
Okay.
This is something I have not told anybody. The only people that know this are my lawyers, my partner in crime, Clay Davis, and my wife. I'm going to tell everybody on your show what it is that the Lexington Police Department was trying to hide. So, let's back up a second. I'll give people the real quick overview of what happened. This goes back, gosh, I guess 3 years ago now. I won't go through the whole thing, but in a nutshell, I did an open records request to the city trying to get information about surveillance technology that the police department was using. And they came back and informed me that they had 24 quote unquote mobile surveillance cameras, but they wouldn't disclose any information on them.
Grr.
And so, yeah. So I did an open records request, like I said, and since they denied it, then my option was to either accept that they weren't going to give me any information or to appeal to the state attorney general. And they have an actual division that handles open records requests and denials. And so I appealed to the state attorney general, and they sided with me and said that the city should hand over these documents. And so instead of handing over the documents, the city of Lexington sued me. So I didn't actually sue the city sued me. And this is an odd quirk of the Kentucky open records law. If either party is not happy with the attorney general's decision, then the next step is to sue not the attorney general who you're unhappy with, but the other party. So
Come on.
yeah. So this went on. It drug on. I won at the circuit court level, and then the city filed a motion to reconsider at circuit court. I won that. It then went to the Kentucky State Court of Appeals, and they remanded it back to the circuit court, basically saying that the city had a right to basically they wanted to convince the court in secret that the cameras needed to be in secret. It's called an in-camera review. And so we did that, and it ended up actually going to a different judge when it went back, and she was very pro-police.
Ugh. Like your boss.
Yeah.
Like Peter Schiff.
Exactly. So, yeah. So anyway, they found in the city's favor, and we could have appealed it back to the state court of appeals again. But at this point, I'm in Florida. It's been 3 years. We did actually establish something pretty important in open records law, because initially the city was just trying to assert, well, we don't have to tell you what these cameras are all about because we don't want to. And you just have to take our word that it's going to create this undue burden on us. And the appeals court basically set the precedent that the police can't just say that, and they have to provide some proof that it will create a burden. So in a sense, I think I did actually strengthen the open records law a bit. And that's one of the reasons we decided not to appeal to the appellate court, because we didn't want to risk, jeopardizing that. So,
right.
But the funny part of the story is that I've known from the very beginning what some of these cameras are, because the Lexington Police Department is not good at redacting documents. And for all of you people who want to redact documents out there, I'll give you a pro tip. Don't use a magic marker. Because when you use a magic marker, you can make a copy of the document and hold it up to the light and read exactly what it says. I don't know what all 24 of the cameras were, but I do know for a fact that the Lexington Police Department has cameras that they can disguise in the streetlights. And they also have cameras that can be disguised as utility boxes. And then they also have apps on their iPhones that can be used to secretly record. And that's, I think, more for like undercover work. So there you go. Those are two of the things that the Lexington Police Department was trying to hide that they thought you should not know about. And now your listeners know. And like I said, I haven't disclosed that. And at some point I'm going to do a press release in Lexington, but I just haven't gotten around to it because,
well, thank
COVID.
you for telling us.
So there you go. Y'all got a scoop.
Very nice.
The whole thing is enraging, and just from a transparency standpoint. I mean, we still don't, like I said, I know what those cameras are. I don't have any earthly idea what their policies are, and nobody does. What the policies are for deploying them, how they store the information. Do they get warrants?
Just trust them, Mike. They have your best interests in mind.
I know.
It's all for you.
I know.
Why are you questioning them when they're just trying to help, man?
But, the basis of their denial of the records request was that if anybody knew what kind of cameras they had, they would have to get rid of them and buy new ones because they're so super secret. And now that people know, the bad guys are going to be looking for those streetlight cameras.
Shooting at the streetlights. Let's do it.
Yeah. But I think some of the cameras too were probably, like smaller that were used for undercover work. And I mean, I get it, but I'm sorry, government, you don't get to hide things from the people that pay for them. At least that's my never to be humble opinion.
Isn't that what public means? You're not allowed into public buildings. You're not allowed on public lands. You're not allowed. Yeah. Need licenses to drive on public roads.
The word public is a spook.
Yeah. It's an excuse. It's an excuse to hold us responsible for stuff and charge us for stuff while the megalomaniacs hold all the actual power.
Yes. Sociopaths. That's what I call all government officials and politicians. They're all sociopaths.
You're not wrong.
And pedophiles and murderers.
No, I'm not
and
wrong at all.
else.
There are a couple of exceptions to that rule, but they're far and few between.
What word, adequately covers pedophiles, sociopaths, possibly psychopaths, every path you can imagine, other than Hillary Clinton? Is there any other word out there that you can use to describe all those?
Bill Clinton.
I don't know.
Bill Clinton.
Yeah.
Okay, him too.
I don't
That
know.
works.
I think they all are to varying degrees.
They're all Hillarys. They're all Bills.
Yeah.
So, Mike, my podcast changed a lot because of coronavirus. Because the first 2 months of it, I put out like one episode per month because I couldn't do it anymore. I could not deal with the news being the same thing and being depressing, and I was just depressed for a couple months. And so now I just have conversations with people I like, and we talk about whatever comes up. So how
He also lets me on.
Yeah, I have to let Ryan on because, he pays me.
Right.
So how have you been dealing with the coronavirus?
Are you dead yet?
No, I'm fine. I honestly think that we might have had it very early on, like in February.
I think so too, for us.
My wife got really, really sick after a trip to Utah, and
Freaking
as sick as
Mormons.
I've ever seen her in terms of like flu symptoms and whatnot. But she didn't have any respiratory issues, so I mean, who knows? I got sick a few days after she did, but mine was all in the stomach. But now they tell us that the coronavirus can actually manifest as nausea. I think any symptom that you have could potentially be coronavirus. So
It was worse because she's black, right?
oh, absolutely. Yeah.
I hear it's pretty racist.
And then we had the whole thing where she had to go riot in the street, but that's a whole different issue.
Well, that's the safest place you can be, from what I hear. We should all be out in the streets.
So how have I been dealing with it? It's in a lot of ways, it hasn't impacted our lives a whole lot. I mean, we've both worked from home to begin with. I'm not opposed to social distancing because I don't really like people. So, I mean, so it hasn't affected our income. It hasn't really, other than during the lockdown part, I couldn't go to the gym and I couldn't go play ice hockey. That was annoying. But even that has opened up now, but I think it's weighing on me now more than it was even then. I'm just tired of it.
Yeah.
Like you said, I'm just tired of it. And the question that keeps coming into my head that nobody can answer for me is, how long does this go on? Because this is a virus. I'm not a biologist or a virologist or any other kind of ologist, but I do understand that viruses are always around, that they mutate, that they don't just go away. It's not just going to magically disappear.
Right.
I'm not confident that they're ever going to come up with a legitimate vaccine. I mean, they'll probably come up with something they'll try to inject into everybody, but
Of course.
so do we do this forever? I mean, like for the rest of my life, am I not going to be able to go to a football game, And I know that's not the biggest deal in the world, but these are things that I enjoy doing. And it's just like,
Well, they are a big deal. Think about the people who work at the stadiums. Think about
Right.
all those different people. You said yourself that it didn't affect you that much personally, but think of all the businesses. I mean, do you have multiple businesses that are closed that you used to go to? In Pennsylvania, I could point to multiple businesses that were completely closed down during that time, and at least one that's never coming back because of the stupid coronavirus. And I went there every other day.
Yeah.
That pisses me off.
A landmark in Lexington, Kentucky, where I moved from, called Two Keys Tavern. It's a bar. It's been there for like 65 years. I mean, it was a campus hangout when I was in college. It was a campus hangout for my daughter, so it's like this long-standing, iconic University of Kentucky landmark business, and they just filed for bankruptcy.
Oh
Um,
man.
and this is being repeated over and over. And I guess that's maybe why it weighs on me so much, because I've been following the economic aspect of it so closely because of the work that I do for Shift Gold. I can't escape it. So every single day I'm looking at, oh, look what the Fed did today. Uh,
Sounds rough. I
it
wouldn't want to
is.
do that.
And it's like, and people don't realize it because we're at the very beginning. People think, oh, the worst of the economic part was in March. No, the worst of the economic part is probably going to be like, next year, when you really start to see the ramifications of all of the government stimulus and all of the money printing, and you start seeing the inflationary effects, and you start seeing these companies that are kind of dragging along because they're getting government money or whatever. It's going to be a slow meltdown, but it's going to be a meltdown, and people don't get it. And
And dividing people into essential versus non-essential workers.
Oh gosh, yeah.
Every single
what's up with
worker is essential in their industry.
Absolutely.
Like, they wouldn't be there if they weren't needed by somebody, and all the way down to themselves. They need that job because they need that income. So every single person, every job is essential in that sense. So if you chop out these people and say they're not essential, well, what about the backlog of their services that people
Right.
were using, people still will need? And eventually that's going to come back to bite, just like the hospitals now.
Right.
The non-essential procedures that got backlogged. Now the hospitals are full, and they're using the full hospitals 80% full of, non-COVID patients, using that as justification to continue the COVID stuff.
Right. That's the whole lesson of the, Bastiat tried to teach us 100 years ago, the whole lesson of the unseen. And I think economist Bob Murphy did a really good job of kind of explaining, he said, imagine if you shut everything down and then you open things up, and the carpenter gets to go back to work, and he shows up and there are no nails because nails were deemed non-essential,
Exactly.
So you have all of these supply chain disruptions, and you see it if you go to the store. I mean, just bizarre things that are you can't get.
The prices are going up as well.
Well, absolutely they are. So yeah, the economic ramifications are bad. But here, let's try to be optimistic a little bit. I think the good thing is you've seen a lot of people that have given the big middle finger to the government. The lady that does my wife's hair, when Jacksonville shut everything down, I guess back in March, she closed for 2 weeks, and then she was like, I can't not work for 2 weeks. So she sent out an email to her clients, and she said, look, if you want to get your hair done, you can come in. It'll be one customer at a time. Just shoot me an email. If you don't want to, fine. And she opened back up and started doing business. And I even saw one of my lefty friends out in San Francisco. His barber came to his house today because he's like, I haven't had a haircut since March and I need one. And of course, the barber needs to pay his bills, which I'm assuming are significant living in San Francisco. So, to me, that's good that you have people that are like willing to just say to the government and move on. But then the depressing side of it is, you can't walk down the street without somebody pointing at you and telling you, put your mask on. They say it like that too.
Right.
Yeah, that's maybe my least favorite part, just because of the Soviet ramifications of this telling on each other nonsense.
Yeah.
Like it's deeply disturbing to me that people will tell on you for not putting a mask on.
Or for opening your business, any of this stuff.
People have the media, the media. I hate using that term because as a journalist, I understand that the media is not a monolithic thing, but maybe the corporate media, as Malice puts it.
The most horrible people in the world. Just if you say that, we'll know who you're talking about.
Yeah. So, people I have friends that are, not typically politically active, just normal everyday folks, good people that are freaked out because they honest to God believe that the coronavirus is going to kill them. And, maybe I'm underestimating. I don't know. Like I said, I'm not a virologist, but I just if I get it, I get it.
Yeah.
And for most people, they're gonna be fine. It's a virus. I take risks all the time in my life. I can't just shut down my life because I'm scared of a virus that is probably always going to be with us now till the end of time. But there are people that are absolutely terrified, and they honestly believe, I think in their heart of hearts, that people that aren't going to wear a mask are seriously putting them at health risk. And
Exactly. We're being called murderers for not wearing a mask.
I don't know what to do with that, because you can't convince them otherwise. They're scared. People, you know how people are when they're scared. I'm just going to try to go on with my life as best I can. And, as a Christian, it's like, if it's my time to go, it's my time to go.
Oh, yeah.
And God wants to take me out with the Rona, then I guess that's just how it's going to be. But I don't know. It's so frustrating on that aspect of it, because I just don't think you can live your life in fear, or you should live your life in fear.
It's just crazy to me. Like, I've seen people be afraid my whole life. After 9/11, there were a lot of afraid people.
Right.
But I have never seen such widespread, like, acceptance of fear as a virtue.
Yeah.
Like, you're afraid, and so you're in the right. And I mean, the power trip these people are having about masks and being afraid to leave their houses as if you're a bad person. I mean, it's incredible.
Well, it's beyond reason.
Yes.
It's the media and the government working together. They're programming people to go into fight or flight at the sight of somebody without a mask. And fight or flight doesn't care about you. You don't think about fight or flight. It just,
Right.
It pops in. The government and the media are intentionally trying to program people so that fight or flight pops up the minute they see somebody without a mask. And that's crazy. That's scary. They've been trying to do it with white people for a long time, so that white males, you fight or flight, and it's worked, unfortunately, with a lot of people. But still, now they're moving on to masks and doing it. It's crazy. It's scary because people are very unpredictable when that happens.
What frustrates me too is this notion that because you're afraid, I have to alter my life and change the way that I do things to make you feel better. And I'm a relatively sensitive person. If I honestly believed that not wearing a mask was going to infect you, I'd wear a mask. But I don't believe that. And for you to place that obligation upon me when you don't even fucking take care of yourself, that's what really gets to me. I want to take some of these people in the grocery store that are like pushing their cart full of processed food and sugar, and they weigh 300 pounds, and they're yelling at me because I'm not wearing a mask. I'm going to start pulling stuff out of their damn grocery cart. If you have the right to tell me I have to wear a mask to take care of you, then I have the right to say, okay, well, then you can't have your damn ho-hos.
Yeah.
Oh, that just burns me up.
Fair.
This wasn't a rated PG program, was it?
Oh, no.
Am I gonna have to be bleeped?
No. I had John McAfee on my show, and ever since then, it is what it is.
Okay, yeah. I had Maj on Godarchy, so there are Godarchy episodes with F-bombs.
Cam made me recode how we do the programs at the MLGA network in order to allow us to specifically add explicit tags to episodes.
Well, one of the things that I think is crazy is you're right. When does this thing end? And at first it was, it's just going to be 2 weeks until we can get the hospitals ready for
Right,
what's going to happen.
we got to flatten the curve.
Right. And then it's progressed so much further now to everyone's like, we're not going back to normal until there's a vaccine.
Right.
Here's the deal with the vaccines. It will take 2 different major medical scientific breakthroughs for a vaccine to work. They'd have to make a RNA vaccine that works on RNA viruses and a coronavirus vaccine, which they've never been able to do before. And we're going to base whether or not we live normally and, have check our risk factors and make our own decisions on giant medical breakthroughs.
Yeah. Here's a question for you guys. If they come out, let's say January, and they come out and say, oh, we've had this great breakthrough, we've got this vaccine, are you going to get vaccinated?
No way in hell.
No chance.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not, I'm probably, I lean more toward being an anti-vaxxer than being an anti-vaxxer. Like I don't really have a problem with vaccines in general. Um, I think I think they're probably overdone. I mean, I don't think you need a chickenpox vaccination, but I don't have a problem with getting vaccinated for polio or yellow fever. But I do object to somebody forcing another person to inject something into their body. And I don't trust something that they've rushed into production in 3 months. And given the dynamics that you've said, with creating a vaccination for a coronavirus that's never been done before, I can't imagine that it would be effective. And that's where we're really going to start seeing the rubber hit the road, because I'm willing to put on a mask to go in Walmart.
I'm not.
That's not for me. That's not a hill that I'm going to die on. We're going to have a different issue when it comes to getting vaccinated. And what are you going to do when you have to have the card to show that you've been vaccinated? I think there'll be a good market for counterfeit vaccine cards. What do you guys think?
Hopefully. That's a best case scenario.
I think that there's a good case of that. But one of the things that worries me about the vaccine, even voluntarily, is the fact that the way vaccines work with the government, like right now, the current vaccines, not a new one, it's all protected. The industry's protected in crazy ways. Protected. If there's an injury, they can't get sued, blah, blah, blah. How much more statist security is this vaccine going to have? How well are they actually going to test it? And how much of that information are they going to share with the general public?
Well, for one thing, they're not doing tests on animals, if you heard. And the human trials they have done so far have caused horrible, what's the word? Symptoms or problems.
Side effects.
Side effects. Yeah, that's the word I was looking for. I mean, when it comes to vaccines, what comes to my mind is, well, first of all, the science of immunology makes sense. Nobody, you don't question that, obviously. It just makes sense. But when my wife was a junior in high school, she got her regular boosters and she got sick. She was bedridden for nearly 6 months until they figured out what was causing the problems. And she was scheduled to get another round during that time. And they figured out what it was. She was having a reaction to something inside the vaccine. And if they'd given her that third round, she could have ended up paralyzed or dead.
Wow.
That's scary and that's crazy. And she had that reaction. 6 months bedridden. She had to leave school, stay at home. It was nuts. So yeah, and that was an old tried and true vaccine. That wasn't something that was rushed out. Our daughter Amity also had some major complications with one of them, and that's when we stopped vaccinating our kids at that point. We're like, between what happened with Hannah, between what happened with Amity, like we don't want to risk our family using these things that are being shoved down our throat by the government. Like, if there was a free market in vaccines where there were companies competing with each other and where the government wasn't protecting them, and if they had a bad product, you could actually take them to court for hurting you on purpose.
Product liability.
Exactly. That would be a completely different world from what we have today. Instead, what we have are these vaccines jam-packed full of as many different things as they possibly can, protected by the government, because having the cocktails is so much more dangerous than the individual ones. Yeah. And the government protecting them from prosecution, it's nuts. And it's going to be 1,000 times worse with this new whatever they come out with. And we most certainly won't be getting it.
So here's something to run by you guys. I don't know why I'm giving you topics for your show, but it's just
you care what we think. I think it's sweet.
Things that I think about. But you talked about the monopoly on the vaccines. Here's another monopoly that the government has that I think has really created a lot of the problems that we're dealing with when it comes to more generally the coronavirus, and that's the government's monopoly on information. I really think that if we lived in a freer society, we would have better information at our fingertips that would make it easier for us as individuals to make rational decisions about how to protect ourselves and how to protect our families and how to respond to this type of thing. Instead, you've got the CDC and the WHO that freaking change their, policy every 3 or 4 weeks. And there's no you've got this attempt to censor anything that's opposed to the whatever the main talking point of the day is, and that's not a healthy way to run a society. You need a free market in information, just like you need a free market in any kind of
Yep.
product. And right now, almost all information, and it's not just health information, but almost all of it is filtered through the government.
Yep.
And I can tell you from experience, having worked in the media, having worked at a local TV station, that the vast majority of your news is produced through government documents and government channels. You have press releases, and you have, if there's an auto accident, you're going to do that story based on a press release, an interview with an officer on the scene, and maybe talk to a witness. But if the witness doesn't say what the official narrative is, you're always going to go with the official narrative. And there's a motivation for that. As a reporter, you don't want to get locked out of the information channel. And if you go against that narrative, then they're just going to quit talking to you, and then you can't do your job anymore. So, it's this closed system loop, and it's very, very gross.
Well, and that's even apart from Operation Mockingbird.
Yeah.
Right.
Which, of course, they're not doing. The government insists they're not doing it anymore. And we can trust them that that's not happening anymore.
Of course not. I mean, I never saw, and I worked in local television for 5 years, and I never saw any indication of true collusion or anything that I would say was the government, literally controlling. But what you have is groupthink. Groupthink is a very powerful thing. In the first place, you have a whole bunch of people who are basically ideologically similar in their makeup. There's a personality type that goes into journalism, which I guess I had it too, but it's the kind of, I want to save the world, and, all that kind of nice stuff. But it is heavily skewed to people who drift to the left. And there's this follow the leader mentality, and people would get mad because they would see this, this everybody's saying the same thing. It's not because somebody came out and said everybody has to say the same thing, but it's because everybody's afraid to say anything different because you don't want to stand out from the crowd. It's a follow the leader business. And, if Channel 27 does a story on X, Y, and Z, then LAX 18 is going to do a story on X, Y, and Z because we don't want to be different. It's a really weird kind of groupthinky thing, and it doesn't require any top-down guy with a bullhorn saying you will report this story. It just happens organically.
And yet there
really
is.
Weird.
I mean, there are only a handful of these companies who own all the local news stations, and they do have stories that come down from on top. And of course, the local news station can decide whether or not they run with them, but a lot of them do. That's how you get the montages of them all saying word for word the exact same stories, verbatim. I mean, these are news reporters. I'm a newsman. Well, you're really just reading a pre-written story verbatim that someone from some office 100,000 miles away sent you. So,
right. A lot of it's from like the AP and again, like I said, everybody's working off the same press release.
Yeah, and whoever's in control of that press release is the one with the agenda.
Right. But I don't know. I'm not even sure that they necessarily are. I don't know. I tend to be, I'm not very conspiratorial about things.
You're too forgiving. They're monsters and they're out to kill us.
I tend to think it's just more laziness and stupidity and groupthink and conformity.
After we destroy all the streetlights, we go after the journalists.
All right. Streetlights, then utility boxes, and then wait a minute. I am still technically a journalist.
The corporate media journalists.
We need more like you.
Yeah. I don't do that anymore.
But I mean, like, look at CNN or MSNBC. I mean, there is a marked difference between just reading the news releases. I think that local news is a little bit different than national news.
Yeah, I would say that's probably true. And I can't really speak to what happens at those levels.
But it's very clear that there's not a bias there. It's an agenda.
Thank you, Michael Malice.
I mean, it's just a fact. Even though he probably wouldn't make a distinction between local and national necessarily.
So I'm curious though, Mike, why do you think media does, swing so heavily left? without being conspiratorial,
Well,
how do you think that happens? Do you think it's organic?
The universities.
yeah, I think a lot of it's I think, like I said, I think part of it is that journalism attracts a personality. Uh, it is a personality that, again, it's people that want to tell a story and change the world. I want to we are make a difference kind of people, and people that are like that tend to be more of your right brain creative types, which tend to be more progressive just in their general nature and build up. Then you take those personality types and you put them into an educational system that is way skewed to the left, and it churns out uh, those type of people. So I went to journalism school at age 39 and 40. So I was pretty immune to the indoctrination machine. But and I could definitely see it. But the courses that you're required to take sociology, and you're required to take political science, and you're required to take ethics. Although I had a really good ethics professor who was actually a Quaker, so she was pretty cool.
Well, Quakers swing way left as well.
Well, yeah, they do, but
How do you admit that, though, without it being conspiratorial? Because it seems academia is intentionally trying to move the brains of the people they're training, like intentionally mold them into that wildly crazy leftist progressive thing. That is conspiratorial. They're working together to manipulate the future of everything.
the question is, though, when I say it's not conspiratorial, I'm saying I don't think it is a top-down coordinated effort. I think it's organic.
Oh yeah.
I think that it's people that are of like mind, uh, and let's be real honest. Human beings are herd animals, and most people are lazy thinkers. And I mean, this is going to sound really snobby, but I mean, I think it's true. Most people are herd animals. They're conformity thinkers, and there's a tremendous amount of pressure to fit into the mold. And there are very few of us who don't give a damn, who are willing to say, no, I believe this, and I don't really care if you don't like me or if you think my opinion's bad. And so, especially when you take young people, you take somebody that's 18, 19, 20 years old, and you start filling their heads with this stuff, and they're shouted down if they say anything negative. I mean, it's not a surprise that you end up with this kind of group thinking worldview. And
Dude, you sound awful lot
I
like
don't
a
know.
white guy. I just read that article last week where white people are independent, objective. They, you try and solve problems using their intellect. They try and work hard to get ahead in the world. I mean, come on, man. You sound like one of those crazy white people who wants that stuff, unlike the rest of people.
I am white. I mean, there is that.
Well, and I think that you're right when it comes to herd mentality and certain personality types. Like, there's a certain personality type that becomes cops. There's a certain personality type that joins the military. There's a certain personality type that becomes nurses and teachers.
Yeah.
I do think that that's what happens. However, I think it's been pretty proven over time that at the head of academia, there is a giant push towards the left, towards progressivism. And
Sure.
you don't have to have a top-down plan when you utilize the groupthink.
And yet there
Right.
is a lot of top-down as well. You do have George Soros money and all these different things which do go into these programs intentionally trying to manipulate it to the extent that they can.
Right, but George Soros doesn't have to talk to the protester on the street. He doesn't have to talk to the person that's directly over the person on the street. All he has to do is let out a certain amount of information and the herd follows.
Well, or give a certain amount of money to a certain arm of,
Right.
of academia, which will fund these crazy leftist weirdos who then expand this thing. And yeah.
Yeah, so much of it seems spontaneous because people are herd animals, like Mike said. So, I mean, there is someone that's at the top, but it's not top down insofar as the person at his local TV station spoke to his boss, who got the orders from his boss, who blah, blah, up and up and up.
Right.
It's a natural progression from one person saying or pushing an idea and everyone following suit.
They didn't get it directly from Satan. Satan, George
Right.
Soros, bunch of steps, then the person on the street.
Right.
Right.
Does that make sense, Mike?
It does. And then, I mean, I would, not to get too weird, but I think there's a spiritual dynamic to it
Definitely.
as well.
Oh, there's absolutely.
know,
Yeah.
The whole Ephesians, it's not against flesh and blood, it's principalities and
Powers and rulers in the unseen realm.
Right.
Which Ryan and I have been reading a book about the unseen realm, and
Oh, it's a good book.
ooh,
Such a good book.
that'll make you start thinking about things in a different way.
yeah. I got a good book for you guys. A guy named Josh Cook. I just interviewed him for Godarchy on the last episode, and he wrote a book about the kind of the powers behind the powers, and looking at kind of tracing from Old through the New Testament, how you can see that there are spiritual forces behind the earthly governments, and his basic premise is that Satan is the ruler of the kingdoms of the world.
Yep.
Which I think we would all agree with.
Yeah.
So,
Well, the
it's a good
physical.
book.
Jesus said that, right?
He did say that.
Well, in the book that I read, and I don't know if Ryan's done with it yet.
I'm
is
not
a book
done with
called
it
The
yet.
Unseen Realm by Michael Heiser. And what he is doing is that book is about breaking down the Old Testament and looking at the Old Testament through the eyes of someone in the ancient Near East. So when you see the term the sons of God, to us, that doesn't mean much of anything. Or some people will say that means the line of Seth, the line of man that came from Adam through Seth. He's talking about humans. But in the ancient Near East, there was a concept of the divine council. There was a concept of a certain hierarchical order within the divine realm, and in that order were what was called the sons of God, who at the Tower of Babel all split up between the 70 nations and pushed the human governments into different directions.
So this is exactly what the book I just read is. That is the exact same premise. Yeah. In fact, some of the things that you talked, the council and Babylon and all of those things, those are things that Josh talks about.
I'm looking for them on Amazon. I'm not finding anything by Josh Cook. So now Cody Cook.
Cody Cook. No.
The Myth of the Christian Nation.
I don't know.
With Cody Cook.
That's it. Yeah. Why'd I call him Josh? He's Josh now.
But yeah, that's actually, it's funny that you mention it because that's exactly what I've been studying lately. So,
yeah. Well, how about that?
Fight the powers.
Trying to really understand the ancient Near East mindset, who the books were written to, what they meant then, because there's a lot of stuff that we read, and we read traditions into them. So like we read a certain verse and we hear Augustine's voice rather than God's.
Right.
Which, Augustine, he really liked the state.
Yes, he did. He's got a city here in Florida, though. So.
This book looks interesting, though. Fight the Powers, What the Bible Says About the Relationship Between Spiritual Forces and Human Governments by Cody Cook. I love that title.
It's very good. It's a pretty short read. He's a theology student, so it's laid out very well, step by step. Like
only 105 pages. Yeah, that's
a non-theologian. Yeah,
very cool.
So.
It's nice to see more than one person talk about that, because when I was reading the book, which is the more academic, like it's high level, longer book. When I was reading it the whole time, like when I heard him talk about the concept of watchers, or these angelic beings that live and watch and pay attention to humanity, it's like, that's terrifying to me. I would much rather just think there's only God and Jesus and the Holy Spirit, because it put it into this realm of thought that I was like, oh, that makes me very uncomfortable.
Did you guys ever, this may be before your times, did you ever read the Frank Peretti books?
Yes.
Yeah, I read a few of them.
The first one.
Yeah.
The, what's Something in the Darkness?
Yeah,
Piercing in the Darkness? Or...
Piercing the Darkness.
Piercing the Darkness was the second one. But yeah, I mean... And it was kind of funny because this came out when I was in college. So this was probably like 86, 87. in that
Wow, were they really that old?
ballpark.
I thought they were
Yes.
from
Yeah.
the late 90s.
Oh no,
No.
I read them when I was a kid because my parents had them from the 80s.
Okay.
Yeah. But it's interesting because he was trying to create an allegorical story. And actually it was really good reading. And it became this big thing because, as with all of things that how Christendom is, we get these little things that everybody gets on the bandwagon and
Left Behind.
Left
tries
Behind,
to
yeah.
yeah, Left Behind. There was the prayer of Jabaz,
Prayer of
or
Jabez. Yeah.
Joaz, or Jabez, yeah. But so the Peretti thing, that was one of those things back in the 80s.
He was the
and
Christian Stephen
people,
King.
yes, but people were taking like some of the stuff that he was just using a story to kind of, what he was trying to do was trying to show that there was a spiritual realm and that it did intersect with humanity, but he didn't mean it to be like taken literally.
Yeah.
But people were like acting like he was writing theology and that there were angels grabbing onto the top of your car when you're driving down the road. It's kind of funny.
Well, it's like people did that with Left Behind too, which is led to a lot of questions in my life recently. That's going to be my next step. As I'm doing angels, and now after this, I'm going to go look at what the hell I got wrong about Revelation.
That'll be difficult.
Yeah. I've got some good Revelation book too. If you really want to get deep into the whole idea of principalities and whatnot, from a little bit more of a liberal theological standpoint, check out William Stringfellow. He was an Anglican theologian, and he actually got arrested back in the Vietnam War for harboring a guy. I can't remember the dude's name, but he burned a bunch of draft cards using napalm. And it was one of William Stringfellow's buddies. So they were like big anti-war people. But Stringfellow's got some pretty profound ideas about principalities. And he's where I got this kind of concept that the moral authority of the state is death.
Yeah.
That came from Stringfellow.
Fascinating stuff.
Yeah.
Goodness gracious. Oh, so I was going to say, we were supposed to have Kim on here too tonight, which would have been fun. But I was going to, when that happened, I was going to start the show and I was going to say, hey, Mike, look at all of these people that have been on Godarchy except for me.
Well, Cam, we need to get you on Godarchy. You need something to talk about, though.
I'm good.
He doesn't want to be on your show.
I'll talk about anything, but no, I was just joking. I'm not I'm just known as the troll, not the theologian on
Well,
Facebook.
I mean, that could be fun. I've had a fireside chat with an atheist. I've had a fireside chat with a Muslim. I had a fireside chat with a lesbian. I could have a fireside chat with a troll.
That would be fun. Oh boy. But yeah, no, I just genuinely like you as a person and like talking to you. So I'm just happy that you came on the show.
Well, I begged to come on this one.
Yeah, it's been cool.
I said, I want to be on that one. I want to be with Mike. It's been too long since we've talked.
So what we need to do, so we can't plan this like on the air, but we need to figure out a time to get together since we're relatively close.
Well,
Oh, for sure.
And just hang out. And
when I was looking at a car today, looking at finding a really cheap 20-year-old Corolla that I can get for my travels, because I want to come out and see you.
Yeah.
That's one of the first things on my list of things to do in Florida. Now that we're the Florida bunch, the three of us.
we could all go to the beach. I'm 20 minutes from the beach.
That's true. I haven't been to a beach in a long time now. It's actually
the beach has honestly become it always has been my happy place. I've always loved the ocean. My mom's convinced that we were like pirates if you believe in reincarnation. But
nope.
Which we don't. But if we did, we'd say we were pirates.
Just don't forget your mask.
Yeah.
To the beach.
No, I was
swimsuit
telling
with
my
your
wife.
mask on.
Right. No, we went down there. We went down there on Sunday just to walk, and first off, there's just something calming about the waves and stuff. But it's the one place that I can still go that seems absolutely normal. You don't see people with masks. You don't see people freaked out. People are just hanging out with their families. They're, playing in the water, fishing, surfing, doing the things that normal human beings do. And it's like this little break from the insanity of any place else you go where it's, all weirdness all the time.
Well, that's
So,
good to hear. Is Florida not making
yeah.
it weird for people on the beach at all? I mean, California, they just keep cracking down harder and harder and harder on people on the beach.
Well, I don't know about, we're in Nassau County. So, basically I live in Georgia. So it's pretty loosey-goosey. Even when it was locked down, it was pretty loosey-goosey. They did close the beach, but for the most part, people here are kind of, it's very red state, and the Trumpers and the red state people, they annoy me in their own way just as much as the left, but they tend to be less intrusive.
Live and let live.
Life.
That works.
Their worldview bothers me. Their worldview frustrates me, and the emails that they send me when I say anything negative about the current administration drives me crazy. But by and large, like, I can handle, we have Trump flags all over, like big flags, 3 of them in our neighborhood.
Oh, you only have 3?
Yeah, we only have 3, but our neighborhood only has about 100 houses.
My neighborhood has maybe 40 houses tops, and there is a Trump flag every other house. Most of them
nice.
are covered in they're the most vulgar ones. So instead of like Trump 2020 keep America great, it says no more bullshit.
We've got one of those.
I also have the one that's it says Trump 2020 and it's an American flag in the shape of a middle finger. And I'm like, this is where I chose to live.
Yeah. But here's the thing. They're not going to yell at you for not having an effing mask.
Good.
True.
Where I am, it is such a breath of fresh air after leaving Pennsylvania, man. I'm in Ocala area, so I'm just west of you, Mike, across a national forest, but or state forest, whatever. But no, these people, man, it's wonderful. We had technicians coming over, and they're not acting all weird or like, all right, can I enter? What do you require? Do I need gloves as well as a mask? In Pennsylvania, everybody are like zombies.
Yeah.
It makes me think of that.
Yeah, you have to perform a blood sacrifice before they come in your house.
Well, have you guys seen the music video, the 1998 music video for Consume Me by DC Talk? They came out with their Supernatural album, and there's this music video for that song Consume Me, and it's all these people walking in single file with these masks on over their faces. And they're just and there's these police, with batons, like, watching them and stun sticks, and all the people are just walking in perfect unison until one person pulls off a mask and realizes they don't need it, and they pull the thing off, and it's like, oh my goodness, and they start breathing, this is amazing, and the person next to them's like, whoa, should I pull mine off? And then the police all freak out, but before the police can stop them all, they all rip off their masks and they all run out of the place. But the thing is, in Pennsylvania, it felt like I was living in that music video for months, ever since the end of March. It was just, I mean, before I left, on just the last day, I was denied twice getting into places. That's nuts. Yeah. But here, Winn-Dixie, man, I went there down the street, and I mean, granted, the majority of people had masks, but no one was weird about it, and nobody was acting strange, and it was great.
That's what was so funny, is because me and my family left Pennsylvania right at the end of March. And I remember, like, Ryan was like, I know you don't seem to want to be here anymore. And I was like, dude, things are coming that I don't want to be a part of. And there were a couple people who were like, oh, that's really crazy. Why'd you move so fast? And I was like, I was the canary in the coal mines, like I smelt it. And then I was like, and really one of the big things was when I was in a Wawa getting a sandwich, and the lady was talking to the cashier in front of me, and she goes, man, I just wish Governor Wolf had some balls. I wish he was more like Cuomo. And I was like, ow.
So the lesson here is, when Cam bugs out of Florida,
go.
Go. Get ready to go. Because I don't know where we're going to go from here, but
that's what was so funny, because people were like, are you crazy? Why are you moving all of a sudden? And it was like the day we left, we packed everything up, and I handed the keys over to the landlord, and the landlord goes, oh, you're leaving today? Yeah, I guess that's good. Tonight's the night when they put in the 8 p.m. curfew. And I was like,
it was that day. Yep.
Skin of my teeth.
Oh, wow.
Yep. You left the day that the lockdown began.
Yep.
Crazy.
And I didn't know about it until he told me as we were driving off. All right, Mike, I know that you're tired, and I know that you love us and want to spend the next 2 hours talking to us, but I'm not going to let you do that. Okay?
No.
I'm going to let you go to
That's good.
sleep, but before we do that, I have one final question for you.
Okay, I'm ready.
What is your favorite thing about me?
What is my favorite thing about you? Gosh, I don't know. That's a put people on the spot kind of question.
You want me to ask you a different one?
I could say it's your amazing beard. No, I mean, in all seriousness, I don't know, you're just a very welcoming, likable person. Like I didn't really know you until I got into the Facebook group, and it's like, this guy's pretty cool. I don't know. You're just good people,
I try to be. That's one of those fun questions because people do go, "Oh man, this is a lot." So I was going to give the option of, is a hot dog a sandwich?
Well, a hot dog is definitely a sandwich.
Oh, absolutely.
So that's not even debatable.
Yeah.
What's wrong with you people?
The real question is ketchup a smoothie?
Is salsa a fruit salad?
Yes, it is.
All right. Well, Mike, is there anything that you'd like to point people to that I haven't already named?
Well, yeah, I probably should pitch my book. If you want to be statist and learn about the Constitution, go to constitutionownersmanual.com. Actually, it's a really good book.
I'm sure it is.
I think there's value in knowing what was intended, if for no other reason than you can look at it and see what you didn't get.
Yeah.
Because basically, we could sue the federal government for false advertising based on the way the Constitution was sold when it was ratified and what we got. So, but I think just being a well-rounded, intelligent person, this is supposed to be our framework of government. So I think it's worth knowing. constitutionownersmanual.com, and buy one of my books because it brings income into my home, which makes my wife happy.
Let me just say, I've never read or listened to anything of yours that I have not totally enjoyed. So, yeah, I'm sure that book is incredible.
I'm sure I could dig up something.
Oh, okay. What the one exception is that sports garbage that you do. You can just stop that. I saw you on live like yesterday, and I started listening to it. It's like, oh, Mike's live. Okay, whatever. Turn it on, start listening, and then you guys start talking about sports. Like, get out of here. Crap. Leave me alone.
The name of that podcast is created just for people
I know,
like
your
you.
sports ball.
The sports balls. At least you never have said bread and circuses.
Let's just call it what it is: government mind control schemes.
Oh, no.
All right. Do you want people to find you on Twitter or anything like that? Do you want to talk to people?
Yeah, you can. I'm a loser Twitterer, but I am there.
Just read Peter Schiff if you want to know what Mike thinks.
Yeah. No. If you want to know what Mike thinks in terms of economics and investing, you can listen to Peter Schiff. Some of the other stuff, no, I like Peter. Peter's good. I'm at M Maharrey 10th. It's like 10th on Twitter. And then I have my own website, michaelmaharrey.com, where you can find Thoughts from Maharrey Head, which I haven't done in like months.
It's such a great name.
I also have music. My daughter came up with that. It's more ironic than anything because, I do some music. My music is on my website and various stuff. And then if you're a believer, or even if you're not a believer, you want to look at the intersection of Christianity and voluntarist anarchism, you can go to godarchy.org, which is really my favorite project, but it really doesn't generate any income. But
what's that like, not making income from a podcast?
It's I think that's what we call typical, right?
I'm still waiting for one of our shows to go big so Cam and I can start making all the big bucks and carry the rest of the shows on the network.
No, the only way you're going to make any money doing a podcast, I figured out how to do it.
OnlyFans?
No. I do make money from my Friday Gold Rap podcast that I do for Shift Gold, but that's because they pay me by the hour. So
I think OnlyFans is probably what we need.
I'm going to start an OnlyFans. All right. Well, thank you so much for coming on, Mike. If you want to find Ryan, type in Techno Agorist anywhere. You'll find him.
Yeah.
If you want to find me, this is MLGA anywhere. Also, Cam at mlganetwork.com, or if you want to talk to Ryan, Ryan at mlganetwork.com. We're very easy. If you want to find my Patreon and give me money, I'll take it from you and do whatever I want with it because it's mine at that point. But thank you so much for coming on, Mike. Thank you guys for listening.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Absolutely. And listeners, all four of you, stay sane.